Okay, looks like we are good to go. Good evening. I call this meeting to order. This is the Litchfield Elementary School Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, July 21st. Thank you for joining us for our special meeting. First, we are going to start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will all stand, join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. First up on our agenda is actually to approve the consent agenda. So if there are no items to be removed or discussed, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Thank you, Melissa. I will do an individual vote. If you recall, when we're on Zoom, I just go individually. So when I call your name, just say yay or nay, please. Melissa?
Melissa's item, a yay.
Kim?
Kim Moran, yay.
Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Okay, and has Tanya joined us? No, not yet. I think she's still trying to get in. I'm Danielle. I will vote yay. Motion carries. All right, following our agenda, moving to item 3A, which is the COVID-19 2021 reopening of schools plan update. And I believe Superintendent Gunning will be walking us through that, or potentially a few staff members maybe.
Yes. President Clymer, members of the governing board, I will just kick us off. Just taking step by step, getting closer and closer to the reopening and getting ready. Our staff has done a lot of hard work in this area. We have our COVID warehouse set up and ready to roll. And then in the consent agenda, one of the items that you approved was we have a lot of desks that student desks that need to be disposed of, and we will be offering that opportunity to families for $1, like we have done in the past. So, and a lot of families have reached out asking for assistance in setting up that study area in their home. So that's something that's exciting that we will jump off and be able to jump into and support them in that process. I'll now turn it over. We'll start with Megan, and she'll give you some updates on our staffing and parent surveys.
Yes, so President Clymer and governing board members, we were proud to say that we had about 10,800 responses from our parents for the learning model commitments. And we had 46% say that they would like in-person for their children, 29% for our distance learning academy, and 25% for hybrid. From there, what we did was look at then how many at each grade level were in each one of those learning models or committed to one of those learning models. And we looked at how many teachers should be provided for each school in regards to their 5 days and hybrid, and then the distant learning academy. So we had 51 teachers K-5 needed for the distant learning academy and 26 teachers for 6th through 8th. From there, the principals worked on their 5-day and their hybrid to look to see how many kids could go or requested each one of those to see if they could offer hybrid as in many places as possible. That was the ultimate goal. They worked diligently to do that. And then they also had to then look to see the parents that they didn't receive feedback from. They called each one of them to ensure that their commitment was registered or put in so that we could ensure our staffing was correct. From there, they placed their teachers, and tomorrow, Gina DeCosta and I will be going through to make our class list for our distant learning academy. And then the principals now are contacting their teachers to let them know or talk to them about the options on their campus of 5-day and hybrid based on their desires and how to make it work based on what their staffing they were given. So that was a intense process, but a really, really good process because everybody wants answers right now. And our teachers, our parents, and so if schools were unable to offer hybrid, they have and are in the process of calling parents to give them options. But our schools did a great job, really, really prioritizing the 3 models. And most of our schools were able to offer some hybrid. Some of our smaller schools or our K-8s, that was trickier, but they worked really hard to do that. And then they really were cognizant about talking to the parents about options to make sure that whatever options they gave them, that the parents felt good about and safe for their children to fit into one of those models. And then the other thing I'd like to talk about is extended day. So what we are doing at extended day is we talked to our legal counsel and they advised us that we were able to offer extended day camps at our campuses until we came back for in-person, because we know that's going to be very helpful for a lot of our parents. So right now we are looking at August 3rd through the 14th, or however long until we come back, till it's safe to come back to in-person, that we will be offering camp at 5 of our campuses, and we spread out those sites so that they're closer and in proximity to every family could have access to those. And those sites are going to be Belen Soto, Corte Sierra, Litchfield, Palm Valley, and Verrado. And then we have basically schools that are close to them. So Belen and Scott Libby children, if they need that camp, will go to Belen. Rancho and Roby and Wigwam and Heck will go to Corte. So we just teamed them in that way to give our parents an option right now, because I know it's a struggle for a lot of our parents who need to get back to work and they need a place for their children and a safe place. And quite honestly, our camp at Belen Soto and Rancho Santa Fe this summer, we successfully figured out how to do all the protocols needed, and they got really good at everything. And man, those children just were so awesome at it. Just they really trained them and how to stay 6 feet away from each other and still have fun and still feel connected. And so they have a very good model to base off of to move into our other schools. And that's all that I have for the 2 things I wanted to present. Does anybody have any questions about those?
This is Kimberly Moran. I have a question. Megan, about how many students indicated they wanted hybrid and hybrid is not an option for them at their home school?
Yes, that's a great question. So we are still in the process of trying to make hybrid work, but that is a great question. And I don't, let me see here. I don't have that in front of me right now, but
Do you know like how many campuses are impacted, or any kind of?
I do. So would you like me to go through the campuses as to what we're offering for hybrid?
That'd be great. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so our K-8s, just based on their setup, were unable to offer any of hybrid in any of our grades. Barbara Roby was able to offer it in 1st, 3rd, and 4th. Corte Sierra is able to offer it in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Dreaming Summit is able to offer it in all of their grades. Litchfield is able to offer it all but 1st grade, and there's 2 classes at 3rd, 4th, and 5th of hybrid. Mabel Paget is able to offer it at 4th and 5th. Palm Valley is able to offer it 1st through 5th, but they're still working on kinder right now because, as we know, some kinder parents haven't enrolled yet, or they're starting to enroll. So they're calling those to see if they can, if there's enough children to go in a hybrid at Palm Valley. Rancho Santa Fe, right now it looks like all grade levels will be able to offer a hybrid. Scott Libby was not able to offer any. Verrado Elementary, 1st, 4th, and 5th. Verrado Middle, being a smaller campus, was not able to offer any. Wigwam Creek offers 6th, 7th, and 8th. Western Sky, right now it looks like 6th and 8th will be able to offer hybrid. L. Thomas Heck, being a smaller campus, right now looks like they will not be able to offer any. And our White Tanks Learning Center will offer it as needed for individuals that would after they're talking to their parents right now.
Okay, so based on the feedback, some of these gaps could literally mean that there wasn't a family there that even was interested in hybrid at that campus.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's really going to be the case based on the way everything was broken out. So tell me again what we're offering those families, because I feel now like, we said, what would you like? And now we're saying, we know that's what you want, but now you can't have that. And I understand the staffing challenges that we have and that we're running into and why those are happening, but I want to make sure everyone understands that.
Sure, absolutely. So if they were unable to offer it because, say, there's 11 kids at that grade level that wanted hybrid, they called and talked through to see if they'd like to go in a 5-day option or if they'd like to go in our distant learning academy. But what they're also going to be offered, and that this will be coming in the next day or two once we get all the class lists in, they'll be able to offer them just hybrid at other schools because that we'll have spots at other schools most likely that we'll be able to offer those parents if they'd like to switch schools, they'd be given that opportunity. So those will be the 3 choices basically. If you want to go into our 5-day, if you'd like to go into our distant learning academy, and then in the next couple days, they'll be able to offer them the option of a hybrid at another campus.
Okay, and then generally, what are the thresholds that we're using for class size? Because you're saying, this campus is going to offer hybrid, but they're not going to be full. So when are we what are those realistic numbers looking like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we know that our in-person for K1 is 25. So basically, I believe Wendy was coaching them to be, when you get to about 18 or 19, we can offer a hybrid. And so it was the upper closest to 20 that we know we can fiscally be responsible and offer that without jeopardizing taking funds from another school or another program.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All
does
right.
anyone else have any questions for Megan before we move on? Okay, thank you, Megan, very much. Lots of great information. We appreciate it. And I know that's a lot of telephone calls and a lot of emails and things like that going back and forth to parents and families, but I am really appreciative that our staff, our school staff is able to do that and make that personal connection, because I think they can give them some really detailed information about what choices they have for their family. And I think that really makes it feel a little bit more personal than just trying to search online and figure out, how to do that online. So thank you for having them reach out. That means a lot, I know, to our community. Thank you. Jody, okay. I think we're still continuing on with more in this part of the presentation.
Yes, and then just briefly, Gina's going to give you an update on curriculum and food services.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. So curriculum has been very busy distributing all of our new Wonders material. So that's exciting. Coaches were in last week and they had it all laid out safely, having teachers come in by appointment and grab their stuff. So everyone's really excited about that. And also Dr. Pearson, Phyllis, and Laura are planning all of the PD that's going to happen when new teachers arrive and when all of our teachers return. And I'll talk about a little bit of that too. But I wanted to share with you that they did a really cool thing for new teachers coming in because of what we're in right now. It's so hard to get everybody together, obviously, but Phyllis decorated the hallway at Mabel Paget. She had all the curriculum materials laid out for them. They had their laptops there. We had a tech crew there. So they came in, they picked up all their curriculum. They got to take their first day in LESD picture. And then the tech guys were there to support them, to get them logged on, make sure they had access to everything they needed access to. And it went really smoothly. And it's one of those things that we had to change because of COVID, but the tech department and the curriculum department both agreed that they want to do it the same way next year, so that when the teachers hit the campus, they're ready to go. Because sometimes you get to campus, then you can't log on, and then you have to call tech. So it really went very smoothly, and everybody was really excited about that. They've already had a lot of trainings, so that's been going on. And then we have a PD schedule coming out. So thank you for those 2 extra days, because it's going to come in really handy. The very first day that everyone is back, they will all report to their campuses. And then the first big training will be that foundation that all of our teachers need on best practices for distance learning. They will go through and learn how to use Nearpod, which is our new platform that we purchased. And they'll all be doing that. And we're going to do that cross your fingers, district-wide, all at the same time. So Laura has a presentation that is awesome and interactive, and they're really going to learn how to do all of these neat things. And then as they go through, they'll be training on Google Classroom and Google Apps, Screencastify, Google Meets, and then a lot of the other software programs that we use, like Newsela and Mystery Science and those types of things. And then they will have 2 full days of site-based, where they can get all the training they need on their campus and things like that too. So they are jam-packed, but it's all really good stuff. And since we don't know how long we'll be doing distance learning, I think it's so important that all of our teachers have the opportunity for this. And then we have we did finish the distance learning schedules, and we're ready to share those out. So principals got those last week, and teachers are able to see them this week, and we'll be putting them up. These are the teacher schedules to kind of let them know exactly how their day is going to go. We're asking all teachers to teach from their classrooms, as you guys know, and a teacher workday for an elementary school in our K-8s would be 7:30 to 3:30 across the district. And then for middle school, it'll be 8 to 4. And then they have like their daily schedule of the kids. And then we just finished a general schedule for parents that will give parents an idea of how much time they're spending online. You know, they're going to get 8 o'clock, check in with a class meeting and conscious discipline rituals. And then 8:30 start, you know, they'll do their Wonders curriculum K3. So we drafted a K5 sample, and then a 6 through 8 sample, and then a general hybrid schedule. And the thing with the hybrid schedule is we do want the teachers that are going to teach hybrid to have some input on what that schedule is going to look like when the students are off campus, and how they're going to balance that synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. So it's not set in stone yet, but we have a really great framework for them to get started. And we're sharing that with you guys in your Friday update. And then food services has some new staff members coming on board. They have a new child nutrition coordinator, Timothy Eli, who will start Monday. He's coming from Saddle Mountain. And they have a food service courier starting at the end of the month. And then one of our current cashier at Verado Elementary has moved up to be our purchasing agent. So she'll be in the office now. So we're excited for Pam Hopkins. Summer meals end this Friday on the 24th. So there's a huge difference between the summer feeding program and the National School Lunch Program. And when we start school, the day we start distance learning, we have to transition over to the National School Lunch Program, which puts a couple restraints. A lot of waivers were carried over, but it will put the restraint as far as like if you buy lunch, you have to pay. If you're free and reduced, obviously you'll get your free or you'll get your reduced price, or if you buy, you buy. So it will no longer be, but they are trying to get a waiver to continue that. So our food services, when we start on August 5th, we'll open every cafeteria, and they will serve on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it will be similar to the grab and go fashion as far as they will get multiple meals when they pick up, if they choose to, or if they just choose to come in and purchase lunch, they can do that too. So that'll be going on. They'll be doing their trainings to get the year started in 3 different groups so that they can be spaced and physically distanced. And Chef Ron's going to do something really cool with his team for all of the staff, because we can't do the welcome back brunches anymore. So he offered to do boxed conference style lunches for the schools. So we split the district up, and each school will get like a sandwich and a cookie and a pasta salad and a bottle of water for everyone on their staff, instead of the welcome back brunches, that such a tradition that we're going to be sad to lose. Moving on to technology, they're gathering and cleaning and re-imaging all of the laptops that we're ready to lend out to students. And you saw the student agreement that came through, I think, in your Friday update a couple weeks ago. So those will start being distributed from campuses by appointment on July 27th. Registrars and office managers, or whoever's on campus, has been calling all of the parents that replied in June and said on our June survey about how do you feel about reopening of school, one of the questions was, do you need a laptop? Do you need internet service? So they're calling all of those people, and they're logging the numbers, and then they'll have the computers on their campus on the 27th. Right now, we're going by need, of course, and since this has all started, more people have called the schools and said, we need laptops and things like that. So we have up to almost 2,000 to do. We were originally looking at about 1,100. So I think that number is going to increase a little bit more. So that's where we're at. And it has to be our Chromebook because the Chromebook can be controlled for student internet safety at home. And all of our Microsoft computers can't. So that's where we're at with that. I think that was everything. And then back to curriculum. And Jody may want to talk about this a little bit more later on. Just when Megan talked about the principals pulling all of their information together and trying to offer as many possibilities as they could, one of the things that's been very difficult to maintain is a traditional academy class, because you have that one class of kids that chose, some of them are going to go online and some of them are going to go hybrid and some are going to go full time. So it's almost impossible to keep a class of traditional academy kids together. So that's definitely been a struggle for principals and trying to figure out what to do. One thing we do know is that the teachers that teach this, last year, our traditional academy classes will continue to use the curriculum. This is an awesome curriculum and they love teaching it. So whatever students in their class, whether they're TA or not, will have a very rich, engaging curriculum. But we would like to suspend that just because it's very difficult to offer at this time. It can't be guaranteed at any campus. So if you have questions about that, that was everything that I had for now. So.
Oh, I have a question, Gina.
Yeah.
You talked about the number of devices. So you mentioned 2,000, I think, devices that are potentially going to be deployed. Do we think that's enough devices? Do we know about what we think that number will be? Will that be more than sufficient, or what's plan B if it's not?
So if we projected based off what we have right now, that would probably just hit the mark and maybe give us a little bit of wiggle room. We are reaching out to places that are donating laptops and things like that. And we'll also just have to look a little closer at what we have on our sites and see what we can pull from there. But this is the digital divide is real. And so it's really hard. Some kids really need them and other parents are just saying, hey, if they're going to be online, I want one. So we're asking principals to be really, to really be trying to figure out who really needs it and let parents know. We'll go through the first round of people and then we'll see what we have and we'll go back through. So it's hard, Kim, because we don't necessarily have all the devices that we need. But we do have computers coming in and there's no real answer because what we ordered in March still isn't here and might not be here till October. So we're just going to do the best we can. And once in-learning school gets started, possibly have little labs on campus for kids to come in and use.
Okay. Thanks, Gina.
Gina, I have a question about the food service and school lunch program. You said we transition once we actually start school. We're going to be starting in distance learning, but in any school, we go to just the regular national lunch program versus the summer feeding program. What does that mean for the different models? Can you just explain? Obviously, if you're a 5-day-a-week, you would purchase lunch, or you would, whether it's free and reduced or you purchase it at full price, you would be given those options. Explain to me the pickup. Like, is the pickup still available for online and for hybrid students on the days they're not on campus? So that's when the grab and go style meals will be available for those children and families?
Yes. So during distance learning, it'll be the same for everyone. And then once we open back up, we can still do multiple meals. So if you're a Digital Learning Academy kid and you just want to come on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and get 2 breakfasts and 2 lunch each time, you can go ahead and do that. We're not sure. Chef Ron and his team are still trying to figure out if they can have a portable point of sale system out in front of the school to make it easier for parents, or if they'll actually have to come in on campus and go into the cafeteria and purchase those meals. But they'll be available to everyone. They'll just have to come onto the campus to get them. Once school opens for in-person learning, lunch will be served every day.
Okay.
For all
and
kids.
For either new parents to our district or parents that might have a situation that has changed, a financial situation that has changed from years past, what is the process now? Because kids aren't going to school. They're not. What is that paperwork process to go through the free and reduced lunch program if parents would like to do that at this point?
The free and reduced app is online. It's really much better and easier if they do it online. And all of our principals are going to be sharing that link in their newsletters and at the bottom of their signatures on their emails. And we're going to ask teachers to do the same because we want as many people as possible to be aware of that. Because like you said, a lot of situations have changed because of COVID and more people probably are eligible and don't even know it. So really get that out there. And they'll have paper copies in the office too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think just without coming to school and getting sort of all of your school packet of information during your open house or meet the teacher or whatever, you know, some parents might not know that's available. And I'm positive that there's a lot of, you know, different circumstances this year than there probably have been in years past. So thank you very much for making sure that we communicate our resources and let people know that, you know, that's available and everything. So I'm going to reserve my questions for the TA program. I do have some, but I know this is on a later part of our agenda, so I'll reserve those questions specifically for that. But does anyone else have any other questions regarding food service or curriculum or technology for Gina before we move on?
I have a question.
I'll go after you, Melissa.
Okay, so my question was about the training that the teachers are coming in for. How are you guys doing that training? Like, is it all still going to be through Zoom, or are they going to be spread out in a cafeteria? What is the expectations for that?
So what we're doing for technology, it'll vary depending on who gives the training, but what we're asking for the most part of the technology, because we feel it's very important for teachers to be able to collaborate with their colleagues during this time. So the first one that I mentioned to you was best practices in distance learning. We would like each grade level team to be together in a classroom, physically distanced with masks when needed. And one person in the classroom logs on to the Google Hangout where the presentation is, and then everybody's on Nearpod together, and then they're working together and asking each other questions and going through that. There is always an option for those teachers that don't feel comfortable with that to go ahead and participate from the safety of their own classroom by themselves. And that's what we've talked to principals about too. And they know that if they have anything in their media center, they know not more than 50 people, everybody 6 feet apart with the masks. And we model it when we do our admin trainings. And we took up the whole cafeteria at Litchfield, just to keep everybody 6 feet apart and physically distance. And they know that if anyone's not comfortable, that they can't participate from their room alone, so they're safe.
Okay, so it's totally up to the teacher if they are comfortable with doing the group collaboration or doing it in their classroom. And principals will let all of them know that to begin with.
Yes, they will be encouraged though to do it together if they can and they feel safe, because it's so beneficial to work through some of these programs as a grade level and really understand and collaborate, because we're such a huge collaborative district. It's going to be hard, but yeah, it's fine.
Well, I think this whole process is a hard thing for us to transition and stop doing things the way we normally do. I too am going to save my TA questions for the TA section. So that's all I got for this one.
Okay.
Okay, and then Gina, I just have 2 questions. You talked a little bit about schedule. Those teachers that are put into the hybrid model, obviously, are they going to get together and discuss how best to provide the information, whether it's through live recorded lessons or online streaming from class to class?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes. So once we have all the hybrid teachers' names and everything, we're going to put a committee together to do that and figure out how that's going to work best for them.
Okay, great. And my second question, I'm not sure if it is solely for you or if it pops back to Megan. When we talked at the last board meeting, it was definitely said that we would try to accommodate everybody and that there was a possibility that hybrid or other options may not be available at their campus. So to hear the numbers that are listed per campus, thank you very much for listing those out, Megan. I thought it was higher than I expected. But what I do find a little interesting is just the lower grade levels, how that is not offered there. And I had someone ask me about joining class like KN1 to find those smaller classes. Is that something that we could squeeze in to offer that, if that was an option to join grade levels into a hybrid model? I know I haven't seen it in a while, so I didn't know that was a possibility.
We did talk to principals about that, and more so doing like a combo, like a K1 combo for the in-person is where it would have came in the most, but they were encouraged to look at every single option that they could to be able to maintain all of their kids on their campus and provide as many different options as they could.
Okay. So right now, those lower grade levels are not really feasible for any campus.
Yeah, and I've only heard of one principal that's seriously considering a combo.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Maybe something to think about. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you.
are two other things I wanted to share with you guys. During distance learning, district-wide, the lunch break for all students will be from 10 to 11. So the schools can be open to serve lunches. So there won't be any conflict with online schedules or students having to be in a class or online at the time that lunch is being served. And we're looking at putting a computer, just an old computer in the front offices. So when we're back in person and parents come in and ask about free and reduced apps, we can direct them right to the website and they can do it right then and there. And Chevron and our Tommy from transportation are working on some options of possibly the second week of school still delivering food to some bus stops. So now that's all I had.
Okay.
Megan, did you want to jump in? I've totally skipped over Touchstone. Did you want to give updates on the Touchstone
Yes.
opportunity?
So
Hey,
as you all-
Jody, before you and Megan start, I just wanted to comment one last time on something that Gina said. I apologize, Megan, and then I'll let you jump before I forget it. You were talking about schedules and how you had created schedules, what people can expect both in the hybrid and kind of online models. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. I know I'm probably not the only board member. I know I've talked to Jody about it. You know, a lot of the questions, both from parents and I'm sure staff as well on your end, is just what does that structure actually look like? What hours should I expect to be, you know, my child to be online and things like that. So I am very appreciative that teachers are going to collaborate in the hybrid model and figure out what that looks like. But even just presenting what the structure or what a day would look like for families as soon as possible, I think is really important. Even if it does change or modify a little bit, just to know what that expectation is, because everything is so new. And you know, you guys are creating all of these things just minute by minute. So I know it's hard to keep everything updated as things change. But anyway, thank you for doing that, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what a day in the life of a Litchfield student is going to look like in just a couple of weeks. So anyway, thank you. Megan, please continue. I'm sorry for
You're
interrupting.
welcome. And those, Danielle, those schedules should be posted to our website in the next day or two.
Awesome. Thank you.
So as we know, Touchstone Behavioral Health has been working with the partnering with us for a few years to offer school-based services for counseling services for our children. We are super excited that even though we're in closure right now, we are adding 4 more schools, which will complete our whole entire district to have access. We'll have access to these services. So the last schools we're offering are Belen Soto, Mabel Paget, Palm Valley, and Scott Libby. And Litchfield, I'm sorry, not Scott Libby, Litchfield. Scott Libby already was. So Litchfield, Palm Valley, Mabel, and Belen are adding Touchstone services in the fall. So what we want to make sure all of our parents know in any of our schools, if you see an increased mental health need in your children and you want to talk to someone, reach out to your principal and they will know how to refer you to Touchstone. And Touchstone will work on an intake and talk to you about, on all the services they provide. And their services are pretty amazing. They provide a counselor and also I believe they call it, the name just changed recently, an interventionist, and they'll work with you in the home right now as well, or telehealth if you don't feel comfortable with anybody coming in your home. And they'll also support you in wraparound services with any other services you're needing to access for your children. By the end of July, we'll be getting a flyer out to everyone just explaining the steps on what to do if you feel your child needs mental health support right now. But until then, reach out to your principal and they'll be able to get you in touch with our amazing partners at Touchstone to help make sure your children get the support they need until we're back in school.
Thank you very much. That is very good news. I know as a board, we've talked about many different times with Jody and the rest of her admin team about how important it is to continue to increase these services and make sure that every school has access to these amazing resources. So thank you guys for working so hard to, I mean, through all of this, I think we've recognized that, you know, mental health and social and emotional well-being are, you know, paramount as we try to navigate all of the different things and challenges that are before us, and continuing to push to offer these at campuses when we're not even open, I think is amazing and very, very much needed in our environment right now. So I would encourage parents or staff or anyone who sees a child in need to please contact a representative on your campus, because these people are there to help them. And we know this year is not going to be easy for a lot of families and a lot of staff members. So please take advantage of these resources, because I know the district staff has worked really hard to make sure that they're available everywhere.
And on that note, we had the the clinical director of Touchstone, Erica, come and present to all of our admin, our directors, and our principals, and just help us to identify just some concerns that we might see in our staff or our children, so that we can get them the help they need. And it was an awesome training last week. And it was also about self-care and building up those protective factors for ourselves and our staff and our children, and what to look for and what's typical and when do we need to work with our staff or our children to get them the help they need. And it was a super incredible training for us to just be prepared, whether it's virtually, in person, or with our staff, how to notice when people are struggling with their mental health and how to intervene to get them what they need.
That's great. Thank you very much, Megan. Appreciate that. Before we move on, are there any other questions for that section, Touchstone, or anything that we've previously covered in our COVID update? Jody, I don't know if you have more in this section or if we're ready to move on. I'm going to ask that we move our superintendent's performance goals down so that we can talk about all of the COVID items kind of at the same time. So I just want to make sure that if we're ready to move on, I'd like to move on to item 4C and consider student in-person start date, just so we can talk all of those together. Is that okay with you if we do that?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Danielle, I do have one more follow-up question on the
Absolutely.
COVID update. Can I say, okay. I'm feeling just a little unsettled, Gina. I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, but so what do we do if we don't have enough devices? Because obviously we're distance learning to start the year, distance learning to some unforeseen date, probably. So I don't want to have families that aren't getting their needs met. So again, and maybe you don't really have a plan B yet, and that's an answer too. If you don't have a plan B, you're just hoping for the best, that's fine. But I don't know, I'm feeling a little unsettled in that area. Can you help me feel
Well, let's start a support group for people that feel unsettled about that, because I feel you. I worry about it. I really do. We're going to be cutting it close. As of right now, we have enough for the demand that we have documentation for. But that doesn't mean that right before school starts, people aren't going to start coming out of the woodwork and be like, oh my gosh, distance learning starts, I need a laptop. So, I mean, I don't know any district that has 1,000 backup computers. And I actually felt a little bit better today after the West Side Impact Curriculum meeting and seeing that there are other districts that only have 1,000 laptops to give out. So we're in better shape than most. And the biggest part of our plan is just really to try to distinguish who really needs in that first round. And then if we run out, which now think about it, we've given out already 200. So we did those in the spring. So those kids have computers. And then John Scudder went around and gave and sold the rest of those dollar ones for summer school kids. So there's 200 off the bat. So we took a big chunk out of it in the very beginning. So I think we're going to be okay with the 2,000. And I know that if we need more, that Brad is going to miraculously go scrounge around every school and pull computers and get them cleaned and ready. We're borrowing workers from Extended Day to come in and help them go find them, get them clean, get them re-imaged. So plan B is really just go pull more computers off the campuses and figure out how to make it work.
Okay, so it would not be, so more money isn't going to help the situation. If we were to say, okay, yeah, we know we have X dollars in our capital fund, and we're going to now allocate that for additional purchases of computers, you're saying that timing wouldn't really be beneficial at this point, or is that still potentially like a plan C?
Well, we have some on order. I mean, we have like 5, I think we're still waiting for 500 more to come in that have been delayed. So that's the problem, is the demand out there. So we could purchase them and we could, you know, put that in our budget, like you're saying, or use some of our CARES money to purchase more, but getting them here in time when we already know that our order from October is not here, or not October, but our order from March isn't here yet. So we do anticipate 500 more new ones coming in. We'd rather not be lending out the new ones. We'd rather pull what we have, the older ones that are, you know, going to run out, and that way it's, you know, it's less risky for us. So Kim, I think we'll make it happen. I'd still worry about it because the other thing too is then, you know, principals say, oh my gosh, now I'm not gonna have any computers on my campus, but we're like, well, it's a give and take. We have to get everybody learning. And then when they come back from distance learning, they bring that back with them, of course, all back to tech, all cleaned, all re-imaged and all that stuff. But so it's just, but I think we'll be okay.
Okay, okay.
Can I
Thanks for
add
that.
one more thing? I just received a text that I misspoke about Western Sky. That I collected this data earlier, and they are able to provide it in 6th, 7th, and 8th. I only said 6th and 8th because that was before they really dove deep and figured it out. So Western Sky is 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Thank you, Megan.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions in that COVID-19 update for anyone before we move on to another action item? Okay, perfect. Jody, are you okay? I'm proposing that we move up the consider student in-person start date, just because we're talking about COVID and distance learning and things like that now, to move that up, and we'll just move your goal approval and discussion after that. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. And let's do that. So we are now going to be discussing action item 4C, consider student in-person school start date. I requested, I think all of us are sort of thinking the same thing, that this be put on the agenda for us as a board and a district administration staff to discuss where we currently sit in terms of our school start date. I think all of us were really hopeful that we would hear by now of any pushback or changing of that start date from our state leaders, and we haven't done that yet. We do anticipate that something will come out this week, either from the governor's office or the Department of Ed, or potentially both. But I think many of us, as well as lots of feedback from our community, our staff, our students' families, are sort of leading us to this conversation and saying, we've already decided we're going to start distance learning on August 5th, potentially start in person on August 17th. And I know myself, I'm feeling very uncomfortable with August 17th as that potential date in person. I know there's more evidence out there than we know what to do with in terms of the scientific based approach and numbers and graphs and charts. And, we are not public health officials, and I don't want to ever, for people ever to think that we are. But as we coordinate with our public health officials and people that are telling us, the indicators, I don't feel that we're in a place to bring even 46% of our kids back in class on August 17th. So I'd at least like to have the conversation of what that looks like, not only from a date. I would suggest that we start moving to after Labor Day. And we come back in our August meeting and we look then at where we are. We consult with public health and all of the people that are helping us make those decisions, and then decide if September, I believe it would be the 8th or the 9th, would be an appropriate date. Anyway, I just want to put that out there on the floor. And Jody, too, if you could bring up any issues in terms of school calendaring or funding or distance learning or anything like that, obviously that would sort of stand in the way of us making this decision. But I'd like to at least put that out there for the board to discuss moving our start date back from August 17th.
So we definitely would love for the board to consider that. It is looking like, and we are excited that it appears that a lot of the groups are kind of combining together and asking for the same things that we've been asking for. So I'm very hopeful in looking at from the document that ASBA sent in to the governor's office, as well as I know Kathy Hoffman had conversations with the governor today, and those requests for guidelines are very consistent. So that will be helpful for all of us. I like the smaller chunk. I'm not sure exactly what he will be looking for, but with that, then it helps us to then consult with attorneys to also see exactly if there are any other ramifications as far as budgeting or anything along those lines. Now, as we jump into this, one of the things that I would have to research and probably try to plan for is if the governor doesn't extend, then I have to also see how do we meet and comply with the executive orders, and then what would be a consequence if we could not comply with an executive order of having a safe place for children to go. But we could also look and tap into our other local groups like around us to see for supports, as well as having our extended day camps that help support that safe place to go as well. So right now, feeling that pretty comfortable and confident that we'll be able to find some options, but also with that being weighed with the safety and the current numbers, just don't feel that they've been consistent enough to be able to offer a safe place for, hundreds of people to return, which would be the little peoples along with the staff.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other board members that have questions, comments, feedback?
I'll provide some feedback. Kimberly Moran here. I know that as a board, we've all received feedback for folks asking for a variety of things on all ends of the spectrum related to what we are facing right now. I personally feel more comfortable with an interim date at this point. I'm not quite ready to give up on hybrid or in person for the entire first quarter of the year, but I think it would be prudent and rational to push the date at this point and then revisit it as we get closer when we know more of what the data looks like at that point in time.
Yeah, I kind of like to chime in on this a little bit too. Kim, several times throughout this meeting, I'm about to click in and you say exactly what I was going to say. So I appreciate that. Thanks. But yeah, so I was looking at some of the numbers and, of course, everything is a guess at this point, right? So all we can do is make some guesses. But I use the epidemic curve from Maricopa County to look at how things are progressing. It's a decent source, I think. And if we're lucky, and we look at that after Labor Day date, right now cases have been decreasing since July 3rd. And at that potential maybe start date, that would put us at 9 weeks of decreasing. And then for hospitalizations, which frankly to me is a bigger indicator of safety in some ways, that's been decreasing since June 26th. So that would put us at 10 weeks of decreasing. Again, this is perfect world, hopeful supposition, which is pretty much what we're living in right now. So I think that as a target date to start with gives us some more breathing room, gives us some more time for hopefully, numbers to continue. Again, hopefully continue in the direction they're currently going. I would expect potentially a little bit of a spike in the next week. Actually, the hospital, I get daily updates from my hospital. I would have expected more of a spike starting about now because of July 4th. So far, we're not really seeing the spike we expected, so that's good, but we'll see, give it a couple days and see where that goes. So right now, I'm comfortable if we continue on this trend. We've got a healthy amount of positive trend to make that after Labor Day date, a safe one. Again, assuming things continue where they are. So again, if we have to change things, we change things. I mean, there doesn't mean we can't, but I like that, partial time frame.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that. Elaine, Melissa, do you guys have any comments or feedback?
I do. So I know that, well, I don't know, I guess none of us know, but August 17th clearly is not like probably going to happen. And I'm sure that we all are expecting some kind of announcement from Governor Ducey this week to possibly extend this anyways. So, I mean, my thing that I would want to see is us making a criteria of what it is that we want to see in order to open our schools safely. I think it's more important to have a criteria that we want to meet in order to do it than it is to put some date out there. And I agree that if we go to the 8th of September, because that's right after Labor Day, that gives us time, so long as we are staying on top of the data and we are coming back to this a few weeks before so that we're giving people time to plan either way of whatever we're going to do. Because I do think it's important that they have time to plan and we're not just all of a sudden going back to school or extending when they think we're going back to school, but we're like, oh, actually, we're going to extend it another month. So that would be my thing. But I do want to see us having some kind of criteria for what it looks like for us to open our schools.
Okay, and I just have 2 quick comments then to that as well. Jody, you mentioned the letter from the School Board Association to the governor. And in that, it does have some criteria that's listed down. So it's good to know that that criteria is being requested from outside sources as a collaboration. Now, whether that's going to meet what we may want to come together with as criteria, I was really comfortable in seeing that they were asking for, a downward documented cases for 28 days and a decrease in percentage for at least 28 days. So they're trying to put something out there. I definitely agree that I think that it's going to get pushed back, and right after Labor Day is kind of a date right in the middle where if we have to push back further than that, then we will be capable of doing so. And it's something that's been mentioned time and time again, and that's flexibility. We want to at least put a date into place so that if it does open sooner or if it's pushed back, we have some wiggle room. We've gotten a lot of emails about safety and the staff and parents wanting us to consider safety for everybody. And I just want everyone to know that that is exactly what we aim to do. I definitely can speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody else on this board, that that's what we're here for in this particular COVID moment. And we're not going to allow somebody to go back to school if it's not safe. I just don't think that as a board that we would allow that to happen. So whether you're coming from a student perspective or a teacher perspective, please know that we will change. We will meet again. We will push dates. We will pull whatever needs to be done so that everybody is coming back in a safe environment so we can get back to what it is that we're all here to do. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Elaine. Good comments. I would agree. I think, Jody, you referenced also the letter from ASBA to the governor and some of the criteria that they had there. Again, I think I'm all for developing what that criteria might look like. And if we use that as a guideline, that's certainly something that we can talk about. I do think, it is important that we continue our relationship with our local county health department and making sure that they're providing us the details and the information that we need to make sure that we're developing that criteria in the right way. I know it's been very hard for them. This is not the first time that request has been made. I think a lot of districts and educators and people across the country have been asking, what is that rubric, right? What is that schedule that says this is exactly when it's safe to go back? And I don't think anyone has perfected what that is yet. So I'm definitely open to, looking at what the ASBA has said and what the governor may or may not come out with this week, and determine that for sure. I think that'd be a great idea. I think at this time, Elaine, I agree with you that bottom line is we don't feel like it's safe today. for us to come back on August 17th. I think we're in agreement of that. Whether that date is September 8th or whether it does get pushed back is something obviously that we'll have to see based on what our environment looks like in another 3 or 4 weeks. We do obviously meet as a board at least once a month. It has been 2 or 3 times this month, maybe even more over the course of the last couple of months, trying to get all this figured out. So I agree with you in that we will meet, we will confer, we will decide what whatever those numbers say, and I think come back. I think to me it's just important that instead of just saying we'll come back when it's safe, when we're not exactly sure what that means right now, or we haven't agreed on what that means, I think families and staff and everyone just need a date right now to say, this is what we're shooting for. We will meet again in August and we will decide at that time what the numbers look like and we can move forward. And if we need to postpone again, we will. But I think just leaving it open to when it's safe, I think leaves a lot of people hanging and not really sure what that might look like. So I would be a proponent of putting a date in there, at least for now, until we meet again in August.
I agree.
Anyone else?
I also wanted to let you all know that Maricopa County Department of Health also reached out to us to get feedback on what they could do to assist. And that was exactly the same thing. And of course, I told Brian today his new data analysis is going to be on COVID. It's going to switch gears. But also I was honored that the Arizona Department of Education actually reached out to me last week to ask me what did I need and what was I looking for as a superintendent and as a district. And so I'm pleasantly excited and pleased to see that these groups are listening and doing something. So to see that alignment, to see that information is very helpful, and that will help us in the future to be able to concretely say, or at least with some form of confidence to say, now's the time and we can do it safely.
Jody, what are your thoughts on both of the, sort of the proposal of a September 8th date, just to sort of put something out there so, teachers and staff and parents have a date to look to, but as a secondary measure, sort of looking to our partners, whether it's ASBA or Maricopa County Health or Department of Ed, whoever, probably a combination of all of those people, to develop what that criteria might look like. How do you feel about doing that? And I mean, obviously we can't agree on that tonight because we don't have all the information, but if we agree on September 8th, what is your confidence level that we could come back with what those guidelines look like? So when we meet again, August 4th, I believe is our next meeting, we'd be able to review that and sort of determine what we're looking at moving forward.
Well, I think September 8th is a good date. I think it's a good shooting, point, a target to try to hit. And then I think that we will have more information by seeing the different groups align with their requests. I think that's really hopeful. And then I think we'll know more information. I think it's hard. I'm just going to say personally, it's hard as I spoke to so many people today and looking at the data. I'm not the expert on that data. So trying to figure out what a trajectory is, what is a positive trajectory, and plotting that. And if we have to start to plot it, at least to where we feel comfortable, that would be good. But I think at least if we have those aligned components, then that helps us to have also those talking points when we're talking to the county health department about, okay, here's what we're looking for. Here's the goals that we're looking to meet. How do we look at your data that you're providing on a daily basis to see if we're actually hitting that target? So I think overall, I feel like the state's heading in the right direction and getting some more focused alignment with some targets. Now, if they could just include the target on their web pages, that would be really helpful for me too. And then highlight it. I'd like green, yellow, like some color coding would be really
So everyone can
helpful.
see it, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're all in agreement on the basics, and it's definitely something that's going to be, unfortunately, ever changing. And I think the bottom line is we are all extremely concerned about safety, and we would just want to make sure that we're asking when we ask students, families, and staff to go back full-time in person, that it is the safest environment that it can be. So anyway, with that, I will make a motion to push back the start of in-person learning till September 8th at this time, continuing to start distance learning on August 5th. I will entertain a
I'll
second
second.
if anyone is. Thank you.
I'll second.
I appreciate that. I will go individually and ask for your vote. Elaine,
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Kim,
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Tanya,
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
thank you, and Melissa.
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
Okay, Danielle Clymer, also yay, so motion carries. Thank you guys very much. Stay tuned, I'm sure, for more details to follow on that. The next sort of COVID item that we're going to do, we're going to push the 4B down to the end, is the authorization for superintendent to suspend traditional academy, the program as needed in terms of staffing and student concerns. We've talked about it a little bit here. Gina, you gave us a little bit of that presentation. Jody, if you want to add anything here, now would be the time. I think a few of us had some questions as well.
Definitely. So we needed to have some flexibility within the traditional academy. Traditional academy, based on the selection from the family perspective, as well as with some of our staffing perspective, we needed to have some flexibility within the program during this time frame. So what that could mean is that it's just not going to look exactly like it does traditionally. So let's just say, for example, I'm a campus and I'm plotting my in-person, and I may have a TA teacher that it had chosen in person, and I may have 15 kids that chose in person. I'm going to have to fill up that class with other students so that we're still balancing class size. So within all of this, I think it was Kim that even asked, like, how are you doing with class sizes? We're still trying to target and hit our class sizes. So we're very conscientious, and every single principal has been looking at it with detail to make sure that no decision over, adds too many children to a classroom. So they've been very aware of that. So that could be one scenario. It could be a scenario that there were a teacher the typical TA teacher might not have selected in person, and she might have really wanted to do hybrid. And so that could kind of shift things, or online. We had some TA teachers that wanted to do online. So the TA class, though, might have been cohorted in some way, and there might be several kids still together. Their curriculum may be different. So they may be accessing the Wonders and the Engage, as well as some of the other students might be experiencing core knowledge. So we just needed flexibility during this time, and every campus was a little different, where we had various campuses that had just different requests from their families when they came back from the surveys. So we'd be more than happy to entertain and answer questions to this very complex setting of this program.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, I think you said that you had some questions on the TA program.
No, I don't have anything specifically at this point. I think Melissa had some follow-ups.
Oh, Melissa, I apologize. Melissa, go ahead. You had some questions.
Yes, my first question is, in asking to suspend it, what exactly does that mean? Like, we're not gonna have TA this year or this semester? What does that look like?
So what I was asking for is for this semester. I just feel like we just don't know what's ahead of us, and I would hate to do it for the entire year if something were to come up. And let's just say miraculously we do have a vaccine. I always say that. What if we get a vaccine in December and we start to get things back to a typical setting in January? I would love to have that flexibility and to be able to analyze it, kind of like what we're talking about with the start date. I'd like to just do it in chunks and be able to analyze things as they come. This is definitely the year of flexibility, and the year of kind of just being fluid as we kind of travel through the journey of the 2021 school year. So And Melissa, just to clarify, if something were to happen that we would then have to suspend it for the entire year, we want it to go back to its traditional setting next year. And those students that are in traditional academy would remain in traditional academy. We wouldn't bump anyone. The only criteria that I gave to any parents about if they would lose their spot is if they left the district, then I couldn't guarantee their spot if they came back. But if I didn't want a choice that they're making, because those 3 choices, that's what I really urged people, was for them to make them based on what their safety desires were for their children. And I didn't want those choices to impact their placement into traditional academy in the future.
Okay, so you're saying we have to fill those classes if we have, say, 15 kids that choose in person and they have the TA teacher and the rest of them aren't. But say we do come back in January and a lot more things are normal and those kids do want to come back in January and be in their traditional academy class, you've already filled the other class. So are we going to be juggling students and making them switch teachers then in the middle of the year?
Well, I think that's what we would come back and talk to you all about to see what everybody's comfort level it is. So that's when we would have to determine, do we suspend it for the entire year, or if we can move children around, is that something that is desirable and that we would do? Because we might have the hybrid kids and the hybrid teacher, and maybe even some distance, the digital academy teachers that may want to come back to in-person learning. So I don't know if I want to say at this time it's a year-long thing. I would rather just wait and see. And then things that I didn't think we could accomplish, honestly, like if you would have really asked me to be truthful, like back in the beginning of June, of what could we accomplish and what all could we do. And I couldn't tell you the number of other superintendents that text me and say, how are you even offering 3 models? I don't know. We were able to figure out a lot of things and to do a lot of things that we didn't think we could do. So just like to have that door open just in case.
Okay, so my next question, maybe it's to Gina, maybe it's to you. You said that the teacher, like the original TA teachers, will still be using the core knowledge curriculum and not the Wonders curriculum. So wouldn't that potentially have kids be behind if they switch in later because they aren't in the same class with them right now?
I don't think so, because what we did, Dr. Pearson and Phyllis did such a great job this summer working with teams of teachers and looking at those critical standards. And so if you're focusing on the standard and that's where your instruction is hitting, then the mastery of those standards, it shouldn't matter as much on the content that you're accessing or being able to show those skills. So I'm actually not worried about that at all.
That's all my questions for right now.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Mine were very much along the same lines as yours. I have a big concern about coming back in the second semester. I am hopeful, Jody. I'm encouraging myself to be hopeful and optimistic that maybe the second semester can be a more traditional environment for our kiddos. I really hope so. But I'm fearful, of course, of saying, okay, we've been through this really challenging first semester, and then we're going to come back the second semester, and then we're going to juggle all of our classrooms and teachers and everything again. That might be more difficult, but I am okay saying we will come back and we will look at it again. So I'm okay saying that we will do that, but I just know now that I am hesitant to say that we would continue that in the second semester. But I understand your hesitation to cancel it for the entire year. So we can come back and look at that, whether that would be in November, December timeframe, I don't know, and make that decision then. I also echo Melissa's concerns in terms of the different curriculum being offered. I think we need to offer our normal curriculum to everyone. Traditional academy teachers were general education teachers before they were traditional academy teachers. So I understand Wonders. I know there's a lot of new curriculum that they haven't been exposed to, but I think to me that just feels really confusing. You're going to put kids in a class doing core knowledge and different math and things like that, and then switch them out, or halfway through the year we're going to put them in if they come from online, and then that's a lot of switching, and that's a lot of different information, and I think those curriculums are different enough that my preference would be we just offer everybody what we can offer, and whether that's online or in person or hybrid, that curriculum look and feel the same across the board. Now, if we're able to, again, re-offer something different in the second semester, we can take a look at that later on. But it just concerns me that we're going to kind of put kids in different classes and have teachers teaching different curriculum.
The struggle would
Sort
be
of-
we don't have enough time to train our TA teachers on the new curriculum, because you would have to think that's new math curriculum that we spent months and months training our staff on, as well as Wonders. So it's a complete shift in their curriculum. And that was something I committed to them even when we jump into this, is that I need you all to be flexible, and I'm not going to force you at the last minute to have to learn brand new curriculum. So I think that's where it would be really hard, because we didn't design training for them to do that. And then they would have needed to be coming in all summer to prepare, as well as we didn't buy supplies for them. So our Wonders curriculum is bought for the teachers that are teaching. We didn't buy the extra like teacher's edition and all that stuff for our TA teachers. Of course, not knowing COVID was going to happen either, but so they wouldn't have the manuals and all the resources right there at the tip of their fingertips. So I think that both curriculums are strong, and I think the curriculum that the children get will be beneficial for all. I think TA kids accessing Wonders and Engage Math, as well as vice versa, I think is beneficial. So I don't think it would be as drastic as people might think. So I don't know. That would be my concern, and I'm sure there's a lot of, and I don't know, Gina, you could chime in too on the amount of training that it would take.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the training component. I mean, I think there's new teachers that come to our district every year that don't work all summer. I mean, they have the days that we've given them for new teacher training and all of that kind of stuff, and they're expected to learn our entire LESD curriculum in 6 or 7 days. So I'm not saying that's great. I'm just saying it does happen, right? There's teachers that come to us that don't work all summer. They just work in the beginning. I totally understand it's difficult. I'm not an educator. I'm not
earlier, though.
proposing to
come in earlier. So not just during new teacher, they get training along the summertime once they're hired. It's very rare that a teacher, it'd be one that was hired like last minute, that would come in last minute, because there's training that occurs all summer long for curriculum, especially beginning at the beginning of July, like at the heart of July. So
okay, but just the point being that, right, this is a different year. This is, sort of unfortunately where we are. So I mean, I can't obviously, force you to do training or anything like that. And that's not my place to do that. I'm just suggesting that there is a concern that you would be bouncing kids in and out of different curriculum. And I think there's enough of a difference that we have a program for it, right? I mean, we have traditional academy for a reason. It is a different curriculum, and those kids are in there for a reason and have chosen that curriculum for a reason. And I think if we do decide to do this and teachers are just going to teach what they know, then I think we just need to suspend it for the year. Again, I mean, we'll decide later on, but I think that's just too much change. I mean, this is just too challenging of a year to try and have them change curriculum mid-year, have them change teacher mid-year, I don't know. Again, we'll reassess at the end of this semester, but I have a very high concern about doing it this way and seeing, where we'd have to come back in the second semester. So I'm all for suspending it now, though, of course.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any? Oh, go ahead.
I agree 100%. Although I actually think we should suspend it for the entire year. I mean, based on this conversation that we're having, when you look at what we're saying we might be doing, especially to gen ed kids that we're going to put into TA, into a different curriculum than they've ever had before. Let's assume it's a third grader, and we're going to let them do it for 6 months. And then we're going to put them into different curriculum with a different teacher later on. I agree with you 100%. It's too much change. We're already starting out with distance learning, and then we're going to go to, or if you're on the digital academy, you'll do that all year, obviously. But the other two options, we might be going in and out of that. I would feel more comfortable from a student standpoint and the quality of education and consistency of education to go ahead and say TA is suspended for the entire year, because I'm not seeing the advantage to general kids. I'm seeing the advantage potentially to TA kids who want that exact thing that they're used to having all of that time, but at what expense?
I'm
Thanks,
open
Kim.
if you wanted to suspend it for the whole year. So open to that suggestion.
Elaine, Tanya, do you guys have any comments or
So,
feedback, questions?
I had a question about, so I'm in agreement, I mean, with Jody in that I think that if you're teaching to the standards and you have quality teacher, and we've talked about the teaching, our quality of our teachers, I'm not super worried about the curriculum for the year. I mean, I think our kids are going to do fine as they can do with this situation, regardless of the curriculum we put in front of them. My daughter bounced in and out. It wasn't a big deal. I went to 5 first grades in 5 different states and 2 different countries. You figure it out, as long as, again, for us, the consistency is we're teaching to those standards and we cover the bases we need to cover and our instruction's good. I do definitely, though, see the concern with, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, starting with one, switching to another. And there, I definitely do see, the pacing can be different. And, again, I don't know that that's an issue if you do it all year, but I think switching mid-year may be an issue. Initially, when we started this discussion, I tend to be a glass full, half full kind of person, hoping that maybe we could switch it out, kind of get more back to where we would normally be partway through. But again, pretty much an agreement in, I think maybe just suspending it for the year, putting that one to bed, and then working on, all the other things that we can hopefully bring back if the circumstances allow, then, that would be probably our time and energy better spent that way. I did have one other question though, Jody, or maybe Jean, I'm not sure who would answer, but so as far as the kids that would be put in that different curriculum, is that going to be just kind of how it shakes out with whatever they choose and whatever that teacher happens to be teaching, which, I don't think matters, frankly, but I'm just curious about how that selection of, kids that would end up in those classes.
Right. So they're just doing their staffing right now. So for example, it's easier to kind of give examples. So like at one of our campuses in 2nd grade, their TA class, a third of the students chose in person, a third chose hybrid, and a third chose the Digital Learning Academy. So they're then just sorting kids and placing them in the classes. So like for hybrid, if it wasn't a TA teacher in that hybrid section, then those kids would just be dispersed among the other classes.
Okay, so it feels like TA is still happening. Like if the teachers are still going to teach the same curriculum that they've been teaching, then TA is still essentially happening. It's just whatever kids happen to get lucky enough to have that teacher get to have the TA year. Or are we expecting the teacher to change their expectations and not treat it like a TA class with the more rigorousness that we usually do? And are they going to pull back? Like, how is that going to work to make it the same? If we're saying we're suspending TA, I mean, are we really doing that if they're doing the same curriculum?
Well, I think they're going to have to definitely look at their kids and meet their students' needs. I mean, they're going to have a diverse group of children in some settings. So they'll have to do, work with intervention, all those pieces. The same thing that we're asking for the Digital Learning Academy teachers is to push the kids as much as possible when needed based on the student needs. So.
Would we be telling parents, the TA teacher that teaches 4th grade that your kids would be going to if your kid was going to be in TA in 4th grade this year, is going to teach the hybrid and give those parents an option to put their kids in hybrid to be in that curriculum, or no?
I think that some of the principals did reach out to their families to let them know if the teacher had switched or wasn't going to be available, just kind of letting them have that heads up. And I don't know, I wasn't in those conversations because I know they called a lot of families personally, especially if they had chosen like a hybrid and it was only going to be in person, just letting them know to give them that like courtesy call. And or vice versa, Melissa. I know it's hard. I don't know. I don't know what the best option. I mean, I think we could say we could suspend it for the year, and the kids, that's why we kind of wanted to go into this year with the plan of they're assigned to their teacher. So, I mean, I'm totally fine with that that's their teacher and their class for the year, and what it looks like is what it looks like. And that mixture is that mixture for those kiddos. So even if like, let's just say their online group, like things got better and thinking, hoping that maybe things get better from a health perspective, and the majority of like that class of online kids wanted to come back in person, they would transition with that teacher, would also be the hope as well. Or even hybrid. There may be hybrid by the end that are ready to be full-time and in person and no longer do hybrid at a certain point.
So it sounds to me, if I can try to summarize this, it sounds like you're really saying TA at every campus needs to be suspended. Not that TA isn't happening, because some TA classes may look exactly like they've looked in years past, but some we know based on the 3 options that we're offering for learning possibilities means that not every campus will have one TA classroom. That's how it's been in the past. So you're really asking for campus by campus, grade by grade. One may look the same, one may not. So you're really asking for flexibility.
Correct.
In this area.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I have to agree with the full year. And I'm going to say the reason why I think that. You talked before about flexibility. We talked about people working together. And I think this is a great opportunity for, if we have TA teachers who are not going to be teaching the standard curriculum, the percentage of those teachers that had taught the standard curriculum, would you say is over 80%, or is it about 50-50?
Meaning the difference of number of TA teachers versus Jenna?
No. How many TA teachers were standard curriculum teachers? I know we've introduced Wonders and some new stuff, but in the past, 6 years, it was my understanding that plenty of teachers had come from the standard curriculum into the TA, right? They applied for that job and they kind of moved up.
Yes, but we've changed our curriculum quite a bit.
Okay.
Several years.
Okay, well then maybe I misunderstood most of that then. Well,
Yeah.
Not really misunderstood, but
because if you
I
think back, we did a lot with Engage, and then we did a lot of we did a year of not only Engage like with our ELA curriculum, but they also were able to supplement a lot. So we've had a lot of change in the arena of curriculum, and some of you know that some of the TA teachers started back when we first started TA. So some of them have been around a long time. So it's been quite a few years.
okay.
So some have been in their realm for 3 years or longer.
Danielle, you had mentioned something about, our new teachers that come in, how they are also cramming with the curriculum that they're learning, correct?
I was just suggesting that, if we have new teachers that come to the district, they don't have all summer to prepare, right? We typically give them extra days than everyone else, especially with new curriculum. I was just suggesting that, we have been crunched for time before, right? If people that are joining our district would have to learn that curriculum, was all I was trying to suggest.
Right, absolutely. I think it would be a good moment for collaboration, because obviously if a TA teacher, obviously they're with PLCs, but another great opportunity to see what works and shift and have flexibility for teaching as much as you can across the board. rather than sticking with, like Melissa said, the TA curriculum in this class. But I definitely agree with the suspension for the year.
I definitely think it'll be a fun year. Like if if it's suspended for the year, it's kind of giving that go ahead to try different curriculum, right? And to cross them over and not feel like they have to worry, which I know a lot of teachers like to look at each other's curriculum and see what works and what things they can use in their classrooms. So this would definitely that would probably be a fun opportunity. When you look at some of the positives that I guess could come out of this COVID time.
Right, absolutely. They both sides have really amazing things that could work well together. So, all right.
And I know we've talked about this several times just since our board retreat, but I know this is sort of our practice always, but it just reminded me a couple of weeks back when we were there is that, I think when we're making these decisions that, we need to be thinking about what's best for kids. What is the absolute best decision for our students? Jody, I think you hit the nail on the head that you just, right, everything is different, or you just need flexibility because we're really just not sure what we're going to come up against. And I appreciate that. So I don't want to hamstring the district into saying we're going to, do something for a period of time and then something changes. So I think the board agrees that just suspending it for the year allows you to be a little bit more flexible for teachers that want to move between models or come from online and move here or whatever, and not without that expectation that, an entire class has to follow them or anything like that. So I hope that that is the flexibility that you were requesting. And even if we do say that we prefer that you just do it for the year and then sort of start back next school year fresh, that's not handcuffing you too much. But I do think that it's probably a good idea, at least in my opinion, that we at least start the year knowing that this is going to be the expectation, and this is going to be the year of change. I think we've already seen that in the last couple months. If things have to change, I have no doubt that you will come back to us and let us know that things changed and you need to take the district in a different direction. So I'm confident that you'll be able to do that and navigate that as it should be. So let's just go ahead and move. If there's no more comments or questions, I will entertain a motion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Elaine.
I'm sorry. I have one more thing. Just a quick question, Jody. If we're suspending this for the year, when we come back in the next school year, those same TA teachers will fall right into their slots. Is that
correct?
Pretty much easy to say. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
And Elaine, just to clarify. Oh, I'm sorry, Jody, say that again.
I was going to say, unless they really liked where they were, like if they really fell in love with the Digital Learning Academy, I wouldn't force them to return.
Well, that makes sense.
And that's the same for the students as well. Just another confirmation. If you are in the traditional academy, if you were scheduled to start traditional academy on August 5th with us, you will no longer be in said traditional academy class, but starting next school year, unless you have moved on to middle school, you will still have a place in that traditional academy on your campus. Jody, is that correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. Okay, just wanted to confirm because I know a lot of parents probably hearing that word suspension get worried about what that might mean for next year. So please do not worry about that. We will do everything that we can do to make sure that all the teachers and the students that were a part of that program will again be part of that program the next school year, hopefully as things calm down a little bit. So I will entertain a motion to authorize, excuse me, I cannot speak. We've been having a meeting too long, to authorize the superintendent to suspend the TA program this year.
I second.
Okay, we'll go individually and vote. Tanya?
Aye.
Melissa?
Melissa Zaidama, aye.
Thank you. Kim?
Kimberly Moran, aye.
Thank you. And Elaine?
Elaine Weathersley, aye.
Danielle Clymer, I am also in the affirmative. That allows the motion to carry. Thank you very much, guys. And now we will go back on our agenda to action item 4B, which is the superintendent performance-based compensation goals for the 2021 school year.
So, Madam President, members of the governing board, I submitted the goals and I did leave off one. So there's one edit. I found that I didn't take quite as good of notes as I thought I had. I starred too many things and I didn't know what my stars meant afterwards. So there is also a goal that will be added under people, which is foster an environment that creates positive work relationships and promotes health and wellness. So what we wanted to look at tonight is to just look at those overarching goals there. So I believe there are 6. And then what I will continue to work on and bring back to you in August is 1, I was just starting to brainstorm sample measures, but 2, really looking at some overarching objectives and what objectives that would help in meeting those goals. So I wanted to get any discussion, input.
Okay, and let me just do a kind of a brief recap for not only the board, but also everyone watching at home. As part of our alignment with our district strategic plan, we have these annual scorecards that not only Jody is required to fill out, as you see here, but also our schools, administrators, all the way down to our campus level. Everyone rolls back up and sort of fills their place in line with the overall district strategic plan that was approved 2 years ago now, I guess. So with that, the pillars are the same, obviously, as part of the plan: student success, people, service, and finance resources. So as a board, we came up with the goals out of those pillars, and that's where Jody got the 6 goals that you see here. Well, the people is missing, but the one that she read. In terms of, those are the ones we thought this year Jody, along with the staff, really needed to focus on under each one of those pillars. So fellow board members, you'll remember at the board retreat, we started this conversation and kind of brainstormed what those goals might be, and then determined what those sort of tangible measures and or objectives might be. So anyway, I'll entertain some discussion now on sort of seeing these goals again under the annual goals line there. Are there any feedback or discussion or changes at that level? Like Jody said, I don't think we're ready to approve what she has under sample measures, because I think there's still some objectives that maybe need to be rolled up into those goals. So some of those might change. So I would propose that we discuss and review the annual goals tonight, and then come back and review the measures and objectives at our August meeting. If that's okay with everyone. So are there any comments or questions on the annual goals that you see here based on the feedback we provided from the strategic plan?
I would like to add one more thing just for informational purposes to go along with what you were saying, Danielle, and basically educating folks on where this information came from in the first place. In the original strategic plan that we developed, it's a 5-year plan, and there's actually 16 separate goals. We as a board during our retreat looked at all of those 16 goals and tried to determine where we thought the district should focus this particular year. Last year, some of these might be repeated from last year because we haven't quite gotten there and perfected that. And some of the goals that are on the 5-year plan will not be on Jody's goals or Superintendent Gunning's goals for this year. So hopefully that makes a little more sense as to where those came from. So anyone who wants to reference what the overall goals are for the district over the next 5 years could certainly look at the original strategic plan, which should be available on our website.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, absolutely. These goals align to that original district strategic plan. So that, I know that is available on our website. I believe it's in the governing board section. So folks can look at that there and see where those goals originally came from. Any comments on the goals or feedback on the goals that you see here? Again, the people one is missing, but Jody read what that would be. And those were, again, the ones that were discussed and brainstormed last month, or earlier this month, excuse me. No? Okay.
If no one else has anything to say, I'll add a little bit more. Because when we had the board retreat and we talked about these goals, so we looked at all 16 goals that were potentially available to focus on this year. As a board, we did go through and kind of voted on which ones, and then we discussed those. And they all are pretty specific to what we knew this challenging year would hold. particularly the goal that says, innovation for all students. We knew the Digital Academy was going to be new and innovative, something that would be a big challenge for that, as well as safety, to provide an environment where all students, staff, and families feel emotionally and physically safe. We knew that those would be things that we would need to be focusing on this year. So as a board, we really tried to customize to what we knew the environment was going to be this year and the things that we knew were going to be the most challenging.
Absolutely, thank you. I know, as you can see here, obviously, under the student success is going to look a little bit different this year without knowing what our assessments or what data may be available to us, whether we're going to be taking the AZM2 test or not, what benchmarks will be available to us. So we do realize and have to be as flexible as we are asking our families and staff to be in this process, that these goals and the measures are just going to look a little bit different this year. I think, you will see that we talk about, wanting to provide an environment where students, staff, and families feel emotionally and physically safe. I think if that could be the goal for this entire year, I think that one is, obviously something that stands out to all of us. So anyway, I would like to propose that knowing that we've discussed the goals, we've brainstormed them, if no one has any comments or feedback now, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this scorecard with the annual goals only, and then again revisit the sample measures and objectives on our next meeting on August 4th.
I second.
Thank you. I believe that was Melissa. I will go through individually and ask for your vote. Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Thank you. Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
Thank you. Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Thank you. And Kim?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Danielle Clymer is also yay, so motion carries. So just to reiterate, we have approved the annual goals on Superintendent Gunning scorecard, and we will revisit the sample measures and the objectives at our next meeting on August 4th. All right, thank you very much. We are done for this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm glad to see some traditions can stay put this year at all of these challenging times. All right, let's just do an all those in favor to adjourn, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe out there.
Thank you. Good night.